Latinos Out Loud podcast. Yeah, that's what it is. Latinos Out Loud.
Yo, 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 yo. Whoa, it's the Latinos Out Loud podcast. Hey, your girl's here, representing all day, every day. I don't know what else to say. It's Rachel La Loca, in case you don't know. Yeah, Rachel La Bronchitis Loca this week. You know what I'm saying? Bear with me and my bronchioles. It's going around, according to Caba. There's some bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that. Bronchitis. I don't know. This is kind of crazy, but I'm operating. I'm going to borrow some of Caba's albuterol in just a sec. Running for the ferry this morning, I think I lost some tissue from my lungs for sure. And these guys that work the ferry, they're tired of seeing me running. Like, they know me now. Like, they see me running. They're like, come on. And they're like, wait. Anyway, I caught the boat. We're here live at this space, Astoria, Queens. Let me tell you a story about Astoria. No, save that for another episode. But we do have storytellers here today for sure, and lots of stories to share. And there were lots of stories shared this week at the Dominican Film Festival. Yo, big up to all the plátanos on screen. It was remarkable, I have to say. And that's not because I have a film that screened twice in the film festival. Shout out to Block 1.
What's the name of that film, Rachel?
Well, Terracino, the name of the film that screamed. I screamed when I saw it screened.
Well, it is the Dominican Film Festival. So
yeah,
they don't screen, they scream. Keep going.
The Swimmers, which shout out to the NHMC, the National Hispanic Media Coalition that produced this film of mine.
Did they?
Yes, they did.
NHMC is an amazing organization.
It really is.
National Hispanic Media Coalition.
NHMC produced my film. Shout out to director Michael Martinez. Shout out to everybody involved in the film, and Brenda Castillo, and everyone who works at the NHMC for making my little infertility dreams come true. I remember when Brenda alerted me that I was part of the Latinx Dream Showcase, that she told me what struck her about my script is that a lot of it is written through the male lens, which was intentional, which when I was undergoing all my infertility treatments and loss and miscarriages, eso y el otro, like, a lot of people were just referring to me, like, oh, she lost a baby. Mm-hmm. She's going through IVF. She miscarried. And I was understanding of that. Like, I understood the language. I'm like, yeah, I know, woe is me. But then I'm like, hold up. He also is going through this. This baby or this fetus, whatever you want to call it, that I lost was 50% his, genetically, DNA, all of it. So because I'm the vessel, I understand why the world says she lost a baby physically. I miscarried 5 times, That happened to me. I was in the emergency room. I get it. But he was also affected. And so when I wrote this script, I played around with that a little bit. I was like, okay, seeing what I saw him go through, the meltdowns, the extracting of the little baby New York Knicks outfit that he bought, that I found in the garbage, like, that is all emotion that I wanted to write about. That, shout out to all the men out there. Shout out to all the partners that also, maybe you're not carrying the babies, but you're also carrying that hurt. And thank you, Nicole Gomez Fisher, who I'm going to introduce right now, even though this is the top of the episode. This is just a free-flowing episode here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a pause from my storytelling real quick to introduce someone that I have been wanting to meet for so freaking long.
It's crazy that you two have not
Oh
met.
my God. Like, I can't even tell you. This woman is so amazing. I've been admiring her work from afar, but now I get to be in the presence of none other than filmmaker, director, writer Nicole Gomez Fisher. And of course, we're also joined by, your family at this point.
She's stalling because she
Terracino.
forgot my name. Oh, there you go.
No! I'm intentionally not saying your first name because you know how many slaps on the wrist I've gotten already? Okay,
Yes.
Terracino's in the building. You guys know him, segment host of LGBTQ Out Loud. Okay, your club and concert calendar. Do. Every time I say that, I think of like Hunka Bunka in Sayreville. Remember those commercials on Z100? Anyway,
Yeah,
it's
but
a New
every
York
time
thing.
a Latino says to me, you're like family now, I feel like, they're going to borrow money from me.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Let's just put a pin in that real quick.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have y'all. So you get what I'm saying, right? Like when you're writing with intent, because I wanted to not celebrate, but like highlight those emotions that I don't think are, they don't rise to the top when we talk about miscarriage and infertility. Forgive my scratchy voice. It's annoying me. I hope it's not annoying
Wait,
anybody
FYI,
else.
writing with intent should be the
Oh,
name of your
hello.
memoirs. Writing with intent. If you don't use it, I'm going to use it.
Okay. Well, when I wrote it and I saw
Swimmers.
The Swimmers,
The
thank
Swimmers.
you. The Swimmers, I did some comedy based off of it, and there were screenings here and there. And I was so surprised because there were moments where men came up to me afterwards and, like, for example, it's like, yo, shorty, thanks a lot for that film, yo. You know what I'm saying? Because, yo, I felt that shit. You know what I mean? I felt that shit.
Who said that? Kaba? Who are you? It's Kaba.
It was a
Kaba,
really-
our producer. Yeah.
It wasn't Kaba, but I did this thing called Smoke Signals, which was a variation of the Moth Stories Uptown, where I shared just a snippet of the Swimmers and then my some more background. And a lot of men came up to me afterwards and like, yo, my sister going through something like that. Or
Really?
yo, my wifey going through something
That
like
is
that.
interesting to me because that perspective and your perspective and making your film from the male perspective versus Nicole's amazing feature, Good Egg, which is from the female perspective and from the couple perspective. I would say your film is from the couple perspective, but then yours is from the male perspective of infertility. So as a quick intro, Nicole Gomez Fisher, my dear friend of many years, our careers overlap. 10 years ago, we both had features on the festival circuit. I had Elliot Loves. You had Sleeping with the Fishes.
That's right.
Key title, Sleeping with the Fishes, because 10 years later, your follow-up feature, Good Egg, is about, speaking of sleeping with the fishes, Good Egg is about a couple trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And and my boss, Rachel, of course, has her short, The Swimmers, which is about a Latina also trying to get pregnant. And the thing with your film is, it never really occurred to me to look through infertility from a male perspective,
Right?
like ever.
Right. Until I saw him go through this meltdown, and also some of his friends, shout out to his dear friends who called me and they were like, yo, you should check in on him because he's going through something and he's being strong for you right now. So he was sweeping his emotions under the rug and, being this strong Latino man and, just pushing everything to the side for me.
And there is that masculine element for a woman, because I have a lot of friends, you and Nicole and many friends, who struggled to be pregnant. And so there is that sense of, even now in 2023 America, but I think especially with Latin women.
Yes.
Yep.
Why are you, what is wrong with you? Because we grow up, I'm Dominican Italian. Nicole is Puerto Rican Jewish and married to an Italian guy, and you're Dominican and Jewish. We grow up surrounded by 100 kids. Like I always say, my childhood was like my big fat Greek wedding, except with no money. But that was my childhood. I have 500 cousins, and we all grew up together. But as you two talk about this, and we were chatting before we were shooting, I never really, with a Latin man, it's only now, in this moment, I guess there is that weird thing of machismo and why can't I do my end of this? Which literally never occurred to me until you're filming, until this conversation now.
That's lovely, actually.
I think it also, even with my husband who's Italian, it was also the machismo. He was devastated. And for the longest time, it was my issue. And then he got his boys tested, and it was kind of a combined issue. And so he had to go through some other things to clean them out. And at the end of the day, he too was struggling. I was, between miscarriages and what have you, they're standing there just outside looking in. They don't. We don't really focus on their perspective. I certainly did not focus on his perspective, which is what Good Egg sort of also led me to, is just realizing how we were coexisting, but we were living such separate lives because neither one of us wanted to express what we were going through. It was just too.
That is in Good Egg.
Correct. Yeah, it was just too tumultuous, the ups and downs. So the fact that you wrote something from a male perspective, dying to see it.
But congrats on the film. I'm hearing distribution. Can we celebrate something?
Yes, we got picked up by Vertical Entertainment.
Oh,
and-
fantastic! Oh, Vertical. Oh, fantastic! I hadn't
And
realized.
so we're going to be, our release is on the 17th of this month.
Yay!
So we're going to be released in theaters and VOD, and the theaters are going to be in Brooklyn, New York, Riverside, California, somewhere in Minnesota, somewhere in Montana, and Texas.
This is so great, you guys. Oh my God, I'm so happy.
So I'm really happy. And then in January, we'll go to SVOD.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nicole, I mean, I saw the film. I'm just so darn happy. It's such a wonderful, magical film. It's just filled with so many, it's a ride. It's a roller coaster ride. And just when you think, you have closure in your head, like, oh, I know what's going to happen next. No, you don't. You don't know what's going to happen next. There's magic. There's infertility. There's sexy. There's Latinidad everywhere. Oh my God. There's Cubanidad. There's just Latinidad, period. It's just so
Across
much
the
fun to
board.
watch.
Thank you.
And also, I mean, this is a subject matter that is so close to my heart. So whenever I see anything that covers this subject matter, especially in a lighthearted fashion, like, can we all just relax? Can we all just freaking relax?
So Good Egg, so is I love the film. I've seen it many times, and I've watched multiple edits of it. And
Yes.
I did, and
you
I
did.
watched it.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
I love Good Egg. It's what I call it's a gentle romp. It's a gentle, outrageous comedy. It really evokes a certain type of film, like Night Shift by Ron Howard, or even Silver Streak with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. It's
Definitely
it
going
is-
back in time. But
Yeah.
it is an outrageous comedy, but it's a gentle, very sweet one. I mean, it's got some great action sequences in it.
Yeah.
But in to get the convo restarted, in Nicole's case, it's about this couple trying to get pregnant, and what happens is a woman on her own, her lead character, goes to this Latina basically saying, "Can I have your eggs?" And that character wants the money because she owes money to the mob. I won't say any more. And then yours, the swimmer, is about infertility from a male perspective.
Right. Sprinkled with a little bit of the female perspective, but I really wanted to highlight the male perspective, which often just goes like sort of in the dark, right? And unseen. There was so many moments of your film, Nicole, that I dialed back to those moments in my infertility journey. Namely, when the doctor called the eggs geriatric.
That's legit. Like, that is what my doctor said to me. And I remember thinking he was joking. And he's like, no, that's an actual term. And I was like, how is that? That's so insulting. But on a scientific level, it is. They were old. And, I had problems years prior to and surgeries that led to my infertility, the endometriosis and so forth. And that's what tail swung into where we landed.
Thank you for sharing that. Maybe you can let's rewind a little bit. Like, what about your journey? And if you can pinpoint that moment where you said, "I'm going to write a comedy about this," like, what about the journey prompted you to create this beautiful piece of art?
Well, thank you for saying that. It was a combination of things. I had just finished my first feature, and everyone was asking, "What's next? What's next?"
Sleeping with the Fishers.
Correct. And I was I didn't want to do anything next. I wanted to get back into trying to get pregnant. And we had tried everything. And so at this point, my husband's like, "What do you want to do? Do you want to try to freeze your eggs?" And I was like, I don't think they're viable at this point. And so after months and months of working in post-production on the first film, I was feeling this urge to just get back into the infertility, the IVF journey that we were on. And so it took a little bit of convincing, but my husband and I sat down and we realized after a couple of embryo transfers and miscarriages that we really had no choice. It was either adoption, which we had considered, but the list for adoption is unbelievable.
Yes.
It takes years. And I was getting older and I was like, I don't know how old I want to be when when I'm a mother. And so we ended up starting to look for egg donors, and I was not happy about it. And I understood that there were people out there that wanted to help and so forth, or needed the money, or whatever their reasons are. It's irrelevant. But I felt so disconnected before we even started the process. So when we did, as in Good Egg, going through application after application after application and wanting to find somebody that maybe had some qualities that resembled me. And we finally found one, and lo and behold, she had some genetic disorder that we found out after the fact.
Oh.
And so, which was going to affect her later in life as well. So we were both affected in weird ways, but we weren't allowed to talk because she was anonymous.
Right.
So then we took a break, and then after a while, I just was like, let's try it again. And really, it took a lot of my husband convincing me because I didn't want to go through the shots and the pain and the ups and downs of mood swings and everything that was going on, because nobody at the time understood my journey. And speaking of the Latino world, my mom was, I don't want to say she was ashamed, but she really was adamant about me not sharing this with the family.
Let's unpack that a little bit, because I experienced the same thing. There's this really uncalled for shame, embarrassment. Keep it a secret. You have a broken toto roto, don't say anything to anybody about your toto roto, And I wholeheartedly disagree with that. Like, as soon as I start talking about my then diagnosed, toto roto, like another woman in the circle will be like, oh my God, me too. Or me 3, me 4. So it's because of women like us that I think we're changing the narrative.
I think it's important to just, not be ashamed about it, And I think in a weird way, she was a little ashamed, but this is even before the egg situation. This is just going through the IVF. She didn't want me to talk about it with anybody. And I was just loose at the lips, and I didn't care. I was like, this is my journey, my life. You can't tell me what to do. And I found that when I was around her, I would keep quiet when people would ask me, like, where are we? How's it going? But it was a combination of that, not her shame, but it was also, I started to feel shameful that I still could not get pregnant, even with the help of the doctors and the medications and the shots, and it still wasn't working. So although, on an intellectual level, you understand it's not you, like God is not punishing you, at the same time, there's that feeling of like, I hate the term, but broken. Yeah. Like, why can't I? Is there something about me, my qualities, my DNA? Like, why am I not able to reproduce? So when my husband brought up the egg situation, like I said, we're talking 2005, 6. This is a while ago. And there were no social media platforms. There was no world. It was really more taboo, not just within the Latino community, but in general. It wasn't out there. So I started writing this at a very different time before it took 8 years to actually make the film. So in a way, my film is a little archaic because it's not as timely as it would be if I was doing it now, where there's more presence and knowledge about it. So it was a very, very dark time for me. And when we finally did select this donor, I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but we were very stressed out. So we drank a lot, and we were joking around like, oh, look, she's blonde and 6 feet tall. And we were going back and forth trying to be like, do we want a model baby? Do we want someone that can play basketball? Like scholarship. So we joked about it, but we ended up choosing this person who had done it before. And that was a fear of mine too, was that, my kids definitely have siblings out there, and that's a whole thing we'll talk about later. It is. And so that was the journey. So it led us to that. And then when I did my first embryo transfer, was when I accidentally bumped into my donor, because the fertility clinic did not allow you to meet because she's anonymous.
Right.
So your appointments are spread apart. Now, in this particular place that we went to, you were not allowed to even see a picture of the person until after the contract was signed, because they don't want to design a baby kind of situation, So it was like, you can't go because this person has nice lips or whatever. So we got to see a picture after. Now it's up to the donor if they want to even leave a picture. They could leave a picture when they were 2 years old, 3 years old, 20 years old. Mine happened to be in a rock band and had a whole bunch of series of headshots. So my husband, for whatever reason, and to this day I still don't know why, did not want to see it. Just did not want to see it. So I saw it. So on one particular day, he was driving me to the clinic. He had to go to Long Island to a meeting. So he dropped me off early. I was really early. And I'm sitting there, pumped up on hormones, ready to get my blood work to make sure that, the levels are ready for the transfer, getting all the information. And this woman walks out, and she's tall, and she's got a hoodie and sunglasses, like all Hollywood, can't see me. And as soon as she took her glasses off to go check out at the front desk, I knew it was her. And panic just set in. I mean, just panic. Just the sense of knowing that this person is going to breed with your husband. I mean, she's the baby mama, and I can't talk to her. I'm not supposed. So while she's sitting there, I called my husband, and he's like, Nicole, do not move. And I'm like, but I just want to say hello. Like, I want to feel some connection to this woman. I can't just go off a piece of paper. And he was like, no. Okay, long story short, I'm going to blame it on the hormones. I did walk out the door, and I got about 5 feet ahead before my husband's like, "You're gonna get arrested. This is called stalking. Get your ass back in the
my
clinic."
God.
And I was just this desire. I wasn't trying to do anything harmful. I wanted to know who she was.
Madam, who are you stalking? That's my baby mama.
Yeah.
She doesn't know it though. She doesn't know it. So I ended up going back in. Obviously, the transfer did not work. And at that point, I needed a real emotional, mental break, financial break.
Yeah.
It was just too much. So I went back to just focusing on sleeping with the fishes. And at which point, my husband's like, "Let's look into surrogacy." And so we ended up finding a pro surrogate because I wanted somebody who had done it before, who understood the transfer of child.
Yeah.
Like right out of the stomach, right into your arms. There's no connection, no breastfeeding, nothing. Yeah. And so we found this wonderful woman in Denver because at the time it was illegal in New York.
Right.
And so we went through that. So that was a whole other financial burden I can't even begin to tell you because you're paying for everything. She's giving you herself.
This is like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's ridiculous. I mean, to this day, I can't even look at the bills. But the point is that during the time, so the first time we only had 5 embryos left at this point. We put 2 of the best in her, and that was the deal, was that there were no more than 2. Am I talking too much about that?
No.
Okay.
Mama.
Sorry.
Not at all.
So at the time, there was she would only allow 2, and it was the best quality. And when they didn't take, to say that she delved into like the hugest depression, so did I. She felt like she had failed us. She was just so upset. The emotions that she and I shared were intense. And to this day, we're still talking. We still
surrogate. You and the
FaceTime.
surrogate?
Love her. She's got 3 kids of her own. She had done it once before. And, it doesn't change the fact that the transfer of baby to intended parent is still difficult. She went through postpartum big time. Oh. But then I said to her, look, we both need a timeout. Let's just break and circle back. I said, but I'm just going to be very honest with you. We only have 3 left. I'm not going to play a gamble with just 2. It's all or nothing. And I don't want to put that pressure on you because it is your body, your choice, all that.
You mean what would be implanted?
Correct.
Right. You wanted 3. Okay. All
And
3. All 3 good ones, for lack of a better.
It was the last of the remaining babies. So it took her time, but then she was like, I just want to do this for you. And I was so scared because, like, what if I was doing something that was harmful to her? This is a huge deal. So, of course, she was wonderful. And when she found out she was pregnant, we were really excited. We didn't want to tell anybody because, how many times do you do that? And then you shoot yourself in the foot and go,
yeah.
got to retract it.
And there are mad times.
Yeah. And it's not fun.
No.
And so she did it. And the day that she was at the doctor, because that was the other thing. She's in Denver, I'm in New York. So everything's via Zoom, the ultrasounds, everything.
Wow.
And
technology.
she's like, here's baby A. Pause. I'm like, oh my God. Here's baby B. I'm like, why are we going down the alphabet? What's happening here? And then she's like, baby C. So now we're all panicking because I'm about to have triplets and I'm getting old and I'm like, there's no effing way I'm going to be able to handle this. Sadly, one did not take after a few weeks. So we ended up with the twin girls. She ended up having a very difficult pregnancy and had to have some surgery to do the kids were eager to get out. So we scheduled a C-section and we flew out to dinner with our families and she had the babies. And I will say that they were both preemies. So they had to be in incubators. And I was not allowed to.
How many months when they were born?
They were 28 weeks. They were young.
Wow.
Yeah, like
7 months.
Yeah. They weren't supposed to be due till late in December.
Right.
So the girls were born, and I remember on day 2 going back to the hospital, and I walked in, and she's sitting there holding one of the girls, and I flipped. I literally saw her, and I pulled back out, and my husband's like, what's the matter? And I'm like, why is she holding? Like, I wasn't allowed to hold. Like, why? I just was so afraid of the disconnect, because here I had 2 women helping me become a mother, one who I'll never know, and one who I do know that I'm afraid the kids having heard her voice, having felt, like I'm afraid there's going to
skin, her
everything,
scent,
her scent, her
yes.
sound. And so, long short is that we have the beautiful babies. 8 months later, and we're talking to her all the time, sending her pictures. She's calling, I'm calling on her birthday, her kids' birthdays, what have you. And we're bonding. Like, we're just completely different women, but we share a lot of the same values, which is really nice. But she ended up saying, I really want to come to New York, and I've never been. And my daughter wants to come because she's a big Friends fan, and they had the Friends TV show set up, and she wanted to go to the cafe. So they came in, and for 24 hours before she came here, I must have taken more Xanax than I've ever taken in my life. I mean, I was so afraid that at 8 months, these girls were going to feel her, smell her, her voice. Everything was there was going to be a connection that separated me even more, because the fact that they're genetically not related and now there's somebody else who's carried them,
Why not have said no, that you didn't want to see her?
Because I felt that it was selfish for what she had done for me. You know, I felt that.
Heart.
I thought it would be.
But that's also the difference between men and women who, you know, societally, women are conditioned to accommodate. Because a lot of men would have been like, no, that's just not a good idea. You know what I mean? But, you know, and it's just interesting within this journey, and it's also true of your lead character in Good Egg, that accommodation, that need to explain herself, that defensiveness, her secret shame. There's a great, I believe it's still in there, when your lead character's in the bathroom and she's looking at the sonogram from when she was pregnant before she lost the baby.
Right.
And it's just interesting in terms of this journey. And you know, Rachel, you're saying that you wanted the male perspective on this, and Nicole giving, without question, the couple perspective and even the family perspective. You know, the Latin mother with all the thing, and she's
The doll.
she's got these.
So perfect.
Let's just say the grandmother in Nicole's Good Egg has some theories about how her daughter can get pregnant, and they're pretty graphic.
Oh gosh,
And,
the pot in the bathtub.
yes,
is so
yeah.
great.
That's an actual real moment.
Really? Oh
Yeah.
my god.
My
But
mother was convinced that.
But it's like, it's interesting, like we were talking about between men and women, you know, masculinity and you know, the masculine perspective, the feminine perspective. And in each case, the sense of failure, not being a man enough, not being a woman enough.
Yeah.
But then there is this, like, you know, wrinkle, which just comes up in your actual story of a woman also having the need to please, having the need to accommodate, even while beating up on herself and failing. And so here you are, having gone through, what is this now, the 8th year of this journey? Because this is after Sleeping with the Fishes, right?
It's 8 years.
Yeah, so your debut feature, Sleeping with the Fishes, which is wonderful, with Ana Ortiz and Gina Rodriguez, released by Breaking Glass
Latino,
Pictures,
now
HBO
available on
Latino,
Amazon
and
Prime.
Amazon Prime, and
love the
that's
plugs.
2012, and so
13.
2013, and
9 years.
you've got years of this under your belt, and now you've got the kids, and it's just weird that you're still like, well, I've got to do the right thing and be polite and accommodate, even though you had to pop 5 Xanax to do it.
Yeah, well, probably more than that, but yeah, a couple margaritas.
5 Xanax and a margarita to do this? My God, it's like no, it's like you were doing anal for the first time.
That's a commitment. Yeah.
I can't even follow up with anything. Usually I'm good with comebacks, but at the same time, though, it wasn't just about doing what was right. It was we had formed a bond, and I didn't want her to know that I was having all these horrible feelings. But I think it was pretty clear, because she wanted to stay with us. That was the one thing I didn't want. I said, you can come, we can hang out, we can do it. But there's a hotel 2 blocks away from my house. So I put her up in the hotel with her daughter. We ended up having a really lovely time. Oh, good. But I will say, I have a lot of pictures of her holding the babies and one by one. And there's a part that you just feel so separated. And you wonder if these kids are going to love you the way they would love her, or they would love their biological mother. And that takes a lot, especially the older the girls get. They just turned 7, and they have so many questions. And we're going to...
Did they know who she is?
They know, yeah, I almost said her name. Yes, they know her. So she's, you know, they FaceTime all the time. They call her Mama Ray.
Okay.
Because it's part of her name.
Why did you tell them? Why did you tell them?
I said, Mommy has a boo-boo belly. And although you didn't grow in my belly, you grew in my heart. And, you know, because of all the surgeries I did have for the endometriosis and some other things in my life, the girls can see the scars. So they look at that, and they always touch it and kiss it and go, it's okay, Mommy. It's okay, we're in somebody else's belly. You're still our mommy.
I'm melting at this. Go ahead.
But I just recently told them about the donor. And that was a much tougher ride.
And you wanted to tell them this? I find that curious. Why not be Latin and just keep secrets and have it spill out when you die, like every Latin family?
Yeah. You know, that's so funny.
Why not wait to the drunken birthday party? You know, when the guy
Come
stands
here,
up and
muchacha, déjame decirte
yeah,
algo.
when the guy, you're not really my
Que
son.
descanse en
Okay,
paz tu
papi,
mamá, pero
sit,
déjame
you're not really
decirte.
my son. Okay, not now. Not.
That's so funny. Well, why? I felt like when the film started getting traction, I felt like, you know, eventually.
Good Egg or Sleeping with
Egg.
the Fishes?
Good Egg.
Good Egg. I love, by the way, your first title, Sleeping with the Fishes,
And
is
then
like sex.
leave-
And the second one is the result.
Yeah. Wow.
I can't wait for the third. It's great.
Good Egg 2.
Bad eggs.
Bad eggs.
Bad eggs in college with loans. A Nicole Gomez Fisher
Be
story.
careful what you wish for.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for.
So that's my tagline. So going back to the donors, so why I think they have a right to know, and I think the earlier you start planting those seeds, no pun intended,
God.
is
This
the
is the
best is going to make it easier to explain to them down the line, because now it's so prevalent on social media that a lot of donor conceived children have their own sites, their own feelings, their own angst. It's a lot of emotions for them too, because they feel as if their egg and or sperm was a purchase versus it being something else. And to me, I don't see it as a purchase. I see it as a want, a need, a desire to be a mother, and finding every which way to go about being one. And in Good Egg, the perspective of the couple, like people say, oh, it's a baby movie. It's not a baby movie. And, you know, there really is never really a baby outside of the cousin or sister, whatever.
Yeah, to me, Good Egg was, as you know, to me, it was an action comedy. With a female lead, and you know, it's hilarious. They're chasing her donor, they're chasing her money, you know, and then it's kind of like, you know, like in Psycho, you know, the MacGuffin in Psycho. Everyone forget what sets off Psycho, the stolen money.
That's right.
And that's the MacGuffin. It's because, you know, as Hitch said, the MacGuffin is what's important to the characters, but not the audience. Yeah. They're all looking for Marion because she stole money. They have no idea about this cross-dresser who killed her, you know. And so there's this, in your wonderful film, Good Egg, there's this kind of MacGuffin-y thing where they don't know where she's gone once she's been kidnapped, and nobody knows about the eggs and the money, and they're just chasing after her because they think she's been kidnapped or gone rogue.
Right.
You know, no one, you know, and so it's just one of these things about, you know, what's important to the characters but not the audience. To me, the audience, it was just a really wonderful action comedy. Yeah. Like that's what I saw, you know. And maybe that's because I'm a man. I don't know. But I saw this action comedy, and I called Nicole up, and I'm like, this is such a terrific action comedy, and by a female filmmaker, you know, and not through the male gaze. It's a feminine action comedy.
Although we do hear a lot from Gordy, right? Gordon's character does convey some of the emotions.
Well, because it's definitely from her couple's perspective.
Yeah.
It's definitely from them as a
support.
couple.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a filmmaker, you know, it's a different kind of action comedy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like an action comedy, but everyone has really good lipstick. It's just like it's like an action comedy from a female perspective.
I appreciated all the pieces of the puzzle, to be quite honest. Like the support from Gordon was really fun.
Gordon
And
is the husband
the
in Good Egg.
husband.
Right.
He went as far as to even starting like the early preliminary selections of the donor without her even knowing.
And that Jordan is Joel from
Joel Johnstone from The Marvelous Maisel.
From the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Mrs. Maisel, excuse me.
Yeah,
Said it wrong.
Mrs. Maisel. And I was like, and you know, it's funny, I saw the film twice before I made that connection. Just as a side note, you do have a great cast. You also have Nick in it.
Nick Cirillo and Nick Cregan, two Nicks.
Nick Cirillo, who was on one of my favorite episodes of Poker Face.
Yes. Yes, I love that.
Rest in Metal. If you've
right.
seen Poker Face season 1. Or Death in Metal or Rest in Metal.
No, I think it's Rest in Metal.
With
I have to
Chloe
go back and-
Sevigny about the one-hit wonder band. And then Nick plays the guy who delivers them their next hit, so they decide to kill him.
Right.
And so your cast in Good Egg is amazing.
It is a great cast. I mean, that was another thing that was really important, especially coming from a Latin perspective, you know, was who is the right person. And it was so important to me that the lead actress, who's played by Yara Martinez, was somebody who could emote a life lived, you know, who understood loss, who understood the need and desire to be a parent and so forth. And there were a lot of actresses that we had on the plate, but they didn't have that heart, the heaviness along with the humor that I was looking for.
Does Yara have children?
No.
It's a wonderful performance. I assume
and
she
she-
did have children.
No.
I
I
assume she
got
did
her
have children.
maternal
Yeah,
instinct
I did too.
right
The
away.
whole, I
Fight.
just assumed she
She's
was
a fighter. And you know, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is at the very end, and I don't want to give it away, but in the box where if you watch her performance, every time it gets me because it's literally as if she's speaking through me. You know, it's my words, but it's like I feel what she's feeling in that moment on screen is what I felt, which was the sorrow and the desperation and the need to please and or be felt like she was being embraced by everybody during this painful time. And she just, her eyes, the sincerity that comes from it, the pleading to let her husband understand where she was coming from and why she did what she did. That to me is what seals the whole film.
There are so many details. This is like a good party. You know, when you go to a good party, you're like, oh, the decor, the DJ, the music, everything was just so good. Down to like, I mean, there's so many things that I want to call out, but like I really, a lot of moments resonated with me. The different attempts on how to get pregnant from the family, the sister who's popping kids out left and right. How many cousins? I used to tell people like on my Jewish side, everybody was like a fertile myrtle, and on on the Dominican side, everybody's a fertile mirta. And then here comes Rachel, not able to pump one out, diagnosed with reoccurring miscarriage, which I still don't understand what that means.
Yeah.
Is it a scientific thing? I don't know.
diagnosis?
It was a diagnosis. Wow. I was diagnosed with reoccurring miscarriage, and that's how I qualified for IUI and IVF and III and Iconio and everything else I did to get pregnant. So I want to know from you, Nicole, like, okay, so watching the swimmers on screen during the Dominican Film Festival gave me a sense of, okay, I wouldn't call it closure, but it was reflection. And I didn't do this intentionally, y'all, but I brought my kids to the theater because I couldn't find a babysitter. So I gave them their tablets because all the shorts that screened before mine had like gore, blood, violence, rape. It was crazy.
Oh my God.
I gave them headphones and tablets, but when my short came on screen, I let them watch it. And then when I went up for the Q&A afterwards, I was like, oh shit, this is such a full circle moment because this film is about the time where I didn't think I was going to have any kids. My reproductive endocrinologist literally handed me a pamphlet like we saw in her film. Handed me a pamphlet of surrogacy and adoption. And she said to me these words verbatim. She's like, we've tried everything and your oven is broken, so you should look into
They
it.
said your oven is broken?
Yes.
Wow, that's worse than geriatric eggs.
That's why I related so much to geriatric eggs because
No, it's actually not worse because
It's
my
not-
oven is broken and I'm
it's-
still waiting for my super to come. So
think
I'm
it's
like,
on
it's not
par.
worse.
I think it's pretty much
It's
on
not
par.
worse, Nicole. It's not always about you, okay?
I'm so sorry.
My oven is broken.
My question
it
for you,
is.
Nicole, is did you also have that like self-reflective moment, or did you gain any closure from this project, or what did you gain now in hindsight that you have your two beautiful girls and your family is complete? What do you feel?
I feel a sense of pride. I mean, as you know, just in general, as a human being, forget about just being a woman, having gone through all of that, you know, again, the emotional, the financial, just the disappointment, the pain, the separation of the marriage at some point, like just to see it all come together and watch the audience laugh and have people like yourself, you know, and you too, Gary. Oh,
Terracino.
No, you can call me Gary.
my bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I still owe her $50.
So at the end of the day, to me, it feels like I've come full circle, just like you. And it wasn't when I was going through my 17th edit, because this film has had so many different lives, as Gary.
No,
Terracino knows.
No, the film, it's the normal editing.
We
People don't understand.
screened.
Films
We
go
screened
through
and went
edit,
back and
sometimes
edit.
for
We
years.
screened again, went back and edit. So we went to Bentonville. We
But
went
Oliver
back.
Stone does that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
He's always reassuring the director's cut. No, you were always so, again, you were always so, because Nicole would screen it and she's like, I'm going to make a tweak. And I'd be like, fantastic.
And
Why
the
not?
tweak would be like a 2-month process, you know, because once you have it locked, it's hard to go back, especially when you're independent. You're working with very little dollars.
Yeah, people don't know that like a film gets locked, even in the digital age. That's all the elements. That's the film, that's the visual effects, that's the sound. It's these legal things and these things you have to do and you get locked. And so you can't just like go back and snip something. You have to go back to the film and to all of these disparate elements, which are in your disparate pieces of sound and everything.
Sound, everything, all your levels, your music,
It's
everything.
like thousands of elements. And then to go back and say, I just want to tweak this, there's
Right.
always a cost benefit analysis where if somebody's like, yeah, well, if you want it, we could do that. That's a G. We can get the editor and the sound guy to remix that. That's $1,500. And to do a tweak in a film that's already happened
easy.
sometimes is so expensive. You know.
This one that has now been picked up and will screen, the one you saw, well, you've seen a lot,
Good egg.
is the final of the final. Because I literally screened it at 3 different festivals before this cut. I was just not happy. Something wasn't working. It was too long. It was dragging. It's supposed to be action. And then I would find that, we go through the action and all of a sudden there'd be this lull. And it was just too many dips and levels. So besides Terracino, Joel Johnstone actually used to edit on his own. And we sat down and he was incredibly integral in what the cut
I didn't realize Joel had helped you out.
Wow, look at
Yeah,
that.
I don't-
Vested interest in the film. That's lovely.
He was just so supportive and wanted the best and wanted to help me. And, after almost 2 years of working on it, you start to lose sight of what your story is about. You start to lose focus on what's funny and what's not.
Editing can be a morass.
Oh, it's painful in itself.
It's a wilderness. Like Ron Howard says.
Yeah.
He said in the master class that he does, which is actually quite good. And he said, every film a director makes will break their heart.
Because you lose things that
There's
you
just
don't
no
lose.
such thing. Even for a film, only, I don't want to say, because there was an infamous director who was infamous for this and he got canceled, but I don't want to say.
Oh.
But only douchebag directors are like, man, I'm editing my film, I love it. And any director who says that to you, it's like, honestly, it's like, you're not very talented. And you're probably sitting next to an editor who's like,
Wrong way.
because like it's editing it's horrible. Like, I mean, I love it. It's actually my favorite part, but I'm saying
I actually love editing too.
I love editing. It's
Okay.
every editing is my favorite part, but that's when you will hit your greatest lows.
But when you have people like you and people that you trust their eye and their knowledge of film and how things work and storytelling, it is so helpful. So, Terracino helped me. It's so weird calling you that, sorry.
Yeah,
And
I thought
then-
every edit you showed me was terrific.
Thank you.
I'm like her Murray on Mary Tyler Moore.
You
I was
really
like,
are.
I love it, Mary. And she was like, and then she would send me another one, and I would be like, I love it even more, Mare. Because I'm like her Murray.
I know it's one of those things where like you're never. I mean, you've shot your own. You're never really happy until you're. So Joel, just going back to him, offered to sort of guide me, and I decided after the urban world where I was, not happy with the cut or the audience response, that I was going to take a time out. No things, go through Thanksgiving, focus on the kids, focus on my family, just focus on life and get out of this editing booth. And it wasn't until after the new year that I spoke to a bunch of people and I was like, how can I tell this story differently? How can we empathize with the protagonist? How can we get that? Because that was what was missing for me, was that the way I had structured it was by the script. And everyone's like, you don't have to edit by the script. You can move things around. And so I redid the first 15 or 18 minutes myself. And I was so happy with that because I was like, okay, now I'm feeling her. And then Joel jumped in and helped me with the second half of just getting the dead air out, keeping that energy alive, even if it was like a stomp on the foot that would lead into another action moment. He was incredibly helpful. And I mean, I should give him credit, but at the end of the day, he helped me put it together. So then I went into iMovie and did all the cuts, and then I called Carlos Barrios, who was my editor,
Barrios.
my colorist.
Carlos.
A small world.
Shout out.
Such a small world.
He literally, he did fishes too. He did some with the fishes.
Awesome.
And he did good. He's pretty much been my editor on almost every project but one. And so this was a grueling one for both of us. We were spending a lot of time together. We were not seeing the same page. So I sent him the MP and I said, can you copy this? Just help me through this. And so,
So to people understand is what Nicole's saying. Just
Sorry.
I'm not mansplaining. I'm editing explaining.
In layman's terms.
in layman's terms.
LOLeros, please.
In layman's terms. So what Nicole is saying, so you have this film and she's got this editor, Carlos Barrios, whom we all know. And so what Nicole is saying is when she was playing around with the beginning, Nicole herself took footage from the film and put it in iMovie to make kind of like if you do it on your iPhone, to send it to her actual editor to say, this is what I want.
This is how I
so
want
you
to
were
see
playing
it.
around with editing, but it's not the actual edit.
Correct.
It still needs to become the
Correct.
actual edit.
Correct.
Edit.
And I went back to his studio and we sat there and we were insanely accurate because the beats, as you know, in comedy, it's really important. If there's that little 1/4 of a second of dead air, you could lose that
might
joke.
not hit.
Right. And so
Might
we
not
went
land.
through it. We kind of played with the music. But I mean, Carlos was, he was the colorist, the editor, the sound designer, post-production. Like he was everything. And I think it took a toll on both of us. But he's amazing to work with because he's very gentle.
Talented.
He is.
Now, you mentioned your comedy. Okay, if I may dial back, speaking of editing, let's rewind. Okay, let's go back to your start in comedy. You were a stand-up comedian. You and I feel like I'm looking in a mirror right now
know.
because we were also part of HBO and Alberto Ferreras' Habla series. I was in Habla, yeah, you were in Habla before it really blew up and became
I think it was the
Habla.
first one.
That's
ever did.
fantastic. You also work with several of these amazing Latina comics out there. You did sketch, you did stand up. I mean, tell us a little bit about the beginning of Nicole Fisher Gomez. Nicole Gomez, Fisher.
Gomez Fisher. It's okay. Everyone says it wrong.
I don't.
You don't.
You may keep saying my first name, but I get all 3 of your last names correct.
Thank you. I appreciate
That's
that.
friendship.
It's important. That is friendship. So I started off as an actress, and I did a couple shows here in New York, and I did one off-Broadway play, and it got a great New York Times review, and I'm like, I'm
Which
going
play
to go
was
to
that?
California. It was called Birthmarks. And I don't remember. Her first name was Leslie something. I don't
What
remember.
is it with like you and kids
No,
and
well,
pregnancy
I
and
wasn't
sleeping
pregnant.
and
I-
look at
eggs
that.
and
There
birth?
was foreshadowing.
No,
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
really interesting because, and I
It's
was
some
not
for
even.
Latin shadowing.
I was not even.
The cuatro shadowing. Wow, it's so crazy.
It's a whole other series. It's so funny. But no, it is like foreshadowing, but I wasn't the pregnant one. I was the best friend to this young girl who got knocked up by her boyfriend. And apparently I had a secret love thing for her. So I was in love with her and wanted to sort of say, I'll be, by your side through the whole thing. And anyways.
And we could also see you on General Hospital.
Oh, God, come on now.
I did not know this.
General
and I know you.
Hospital.
I was a waitress. I had like one line, like, can I get you a drink or something? And same thing with 24. I was in 24. I was pregnant.
Were
The
you?
only time I was pregnant, I had my belly.
Well, great. That means the only time you were pregnant, you got
had a
paid for it.
prosthetic.
Like, that's already
There
fantastic.
you go.
Oh my God.
And I was pregnant. My husband, there was a bomb about to go off, and my husband went into this convenience store to get stuff for us as we were about to go on this big ride. And then he got shot and killed. And then I had to be like, "Ay, Dios mío,"
Really?
and then fade out.
pregnant though.
Yeah.
All of
Isn't
this
that crazy?
Is kind of
It's the
universe.
only picture that you will ever see of me pregnant is with a fake belly. Wow. Yeah. So I started that way, and then when I got out to LA, I was watching a lot of my friends do a lot of writing. And I was like, and people were like, oh, you're funny. You should get up on stage. And so I started doing these open mics. I started here in New York first. And then my material here was apparently too blue for LA. Do you know the term blue?
No,
It's
can
like,
you explain? I don't know.
oh, yes.
Oh, you don't know the term working
Really?
blue?
No.
Oh, it's when you drop too many F-bombs and you're foul, so you're blue.
Yeah, in the old days in comedy clubs, Phyllis Diller talks about this.
Oh, great. You are dating us.
yeah.
Jesus, Phyllis Diller.
So no, but
I knew her from Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
yeah, I love to. No, but there's a great documentary that came out like 15 years ago called The Aristocrats, which is about allegedly the dirtiest joke ever told in comedy. It's a whole doc.
I know, and
Phyllis
told
Diller-
by different comedians. Yeah.
Phyllis
Oh,
Diller
that's
talks
funny.
about, she was like, back in the day when you went into the dressing room behind the comedy club, it would say no working blue.
Got it.
Which just meant anything that like could
Was
affect,
just raunchy or
cursing or
offensive,
sex,
right.
basically
Yeah.
cursing or sex
Or drugs.
or drugs. Yeah.
Thanks for putting us on. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's not a term used today, though, right?
No,
I don't think so. I haven't heard it. But so the work I was doing in New York was accepted. People got it. They didn't care. There was no judgment. I went out to LA. I started doing the same material, and people were like, your image does not fit what's coming out of your mouth. And of course, at that time, being so green and so eager and wanting to appease, I rewrote my material, but it never, even though I had success here and there, it never felt like me because I felt like I was putting on an act that other people want. They wanted to hear about my dog, and I wanted to get like things that had no interest for me. So I did that for a while. I was on a troupe called the Hot Tamales, and that was with Kiki Melendez and Eva Longoria. I did go there. I did.
All right.
You can do what you want with that.
I didn't mention names before, but that's great.
I have no idea what the
them.
chisme is. I'm just like, I'm the Latin man in the kitchen, and they're going at it with the Tupperware, and I'm just like, I'm going to take this drink and leave. I don't know what's going on.
but I'm still going to be listening from a distance.
Yeah.
So I was part of that for a while, and that got me a lot of stage time. But it was this one moment at the Comedy Store. I got off the stage, and it was, not my best performance, but this woman came up to me, this other comedian, said, "Don't take this the wrong way." And when somebody starts with "don't take it the wrong way," they're about to insult
Already,
you or
it's
say
like,
something.
okay,
Yeah.
what's coming?
Like, all right.
Armor is on. Go ahead.
But it's not a direct quote, but she basically, in no other words, said, "Your writing is really good. Your performance doesn't match the right. Like you're not giving. It's
Because it's not you.
Right, exactly. So although at first I was kind of like, it stung, I was like, oh God, I suck. I took that with me and I kind of sat with it for like 2 or 3 days, and I was like, you know what? I'm a good writer. Maybe I should just write. And that was what led me to writing my first feature, having no experience or knowledge.
And interesting because your films, Sleeping with the Fishes and Good Egg, are so authentically you.
Yeah.
So that feedback actually
Helped.
which you did not take the wrong way. You actually took it was I need to do work that's about my authentic self.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
and pun intended, that gave birth to your filmmaking. career.
Oh,
But it did.
And
nice.
there I
Thank
was
you.
conceived.
No, that's why you pay me the modestly big bucks.
the modestly big bugs.
I do? Oh, okay.
Like, wait a minute, we have a contract? So that's what landed me into comedy. And then, of course, I ended up coming back to New York because I was just missing this vibe out here. And I was out in LA for 4 years, and it was just like more of a struggle that I just didn't feel was worth it anymore. So I came home and I did a one-woman show. And after that, I said, you know what? I don't want to be in front of the camera. I don't want to be on stage. I want to be behind it, and I want to learn like how to create a world through my words. And I love that you're smiling. Like that improv.
I love it. I love all
It
of
is
it.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Nicole,
said.
it's beautiful.
You guys
It
are so
really
sweet.
is. Yeah. This is so lovely. I guess my last question before we get into LGBTQ out loud, because we'll be here forever. And
I know I could talk to you for hours.
Kama's like, okay, we can't have a 3-hour episode. If there's one thing that you want viewers to take away from Good Egg, what is that message?
I think the most important thing for me is that people understand that everyone has their struggles, whether it's about trying to get pregnant or whatever is going on in your life. And the best way, in my eyes, to cure that pain and sort of move past is by humor. And if you can't laugh at some of the hard struggles, I mean, this is only one of many I've had in my life, then you're just not living, and it's easier said than done. I'm not going to say medication and therapy has not gotten me through, but I do hope that people can just walk out of there feeling entertained, whether they can, actually associate with the topic, whether they've been there, haven't been there, just sort of walk out saying, you know what, that was fun. I had a good hour and a half time there, love the acting. There was a lot of heart and humor, and just taking that away, knowing that what led to this, I'm going to go there, conception.
Oh, you heard that? Okay.
is tragedy. And they always say, with tragedy comes comedy, the best comedy. And yeah, to me, it's about entertaining people. Like when some people walk away and they're like, I don't get it. I'm like, well, you don't have to. But did you laugh? Did you have fun? Did you feel something? That's what matters.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for turning your stories into this wonderful movie. It is so great. Even if you haven't been through the struggles that we both share, it's really for everyone. So I look forward to this theater run. This is really exciting.
I'm so excited. November 17th, y'all.
In theaters,
gotta
Good
get people
Egg,
click,
Vertical
click,
Releasing,
click.
Good Egg, written and directed by Nicole Gomez Fisher, released by Vertical Releasing, November 17th in theaters, and it's also theaters and VOD.
Oh, and then, sorry, one last thing, because I kind of find it. Right after the U.S. release, we're releasing in the UK and South Africa.
That's wonderful.
So, and now
that's
we're waiting on
awesome.
some other international platforms. too.
Yes,
Yeah, Vertical is a great
baby.
company. Big up to Vertical Releasing.
Yo, what an amazing episode. Shout out to Nicole Gomez Fisher for coming on the show. Make sure to check out her film, Good Egg. Well, she made for quite the good episode, right? So, make sure you follow us at We Are Latinos Out Loud. You can follow me at Rachel La Loca. Give us a call. No big whoop. 978 Latinos. Yeah, that's the number. 978 Latinos. And thank you so much. Also, something else to check out, LGBTQ Out Loud. Another episode will be dropping today. BONUS. Bonus, bonus, bonus. All right, LOLeros. On that note, we out.
It's the Latinos Out Loud podcast.